What if I told you the average American didn't have basic financial knowledge? What if I told you the average American failed the most basic of financial tests or surveys? Not a CPA exam, not an accounting exam, basic finance, how to balance checkbook, investing, savings, basic stocks, and financial knowledge. What if I told you that the average American, on average, did not have basic financial literacy? Now, to some folks, that may be a huge shock. And to some folks, you are not surprised at all. But that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Believe it or not, there is a study out there that says the basic American fails in terms of basic financial literacy, and it is directly impacting the everyday American's ability to get ahead, save, succeed financially, whatever that may be, in today's market and beyond. But you are not going to believe some of these numbers, and today we are going to get into it in much more detail. So, believe it or not, on the average money knowledge test, Americans are getting not only doing poorly, but getting worse in basic money financial knowledge, answering most questions incorrectly for basic money knowledge, and it's getting worse. My name is Taj Walker. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Of course, if you are looking for a real estate professional in your area, love to help, love to connect you with a local professional in your area or a vetted agent that can help you on your real estate journey, whether you're buying a home, selling a home, or you're jumping into the market. I love to connect you with someone to help make that journey smooth and to connect you with a professional who could help you get to and accomplish whatever goals you're looking for in the real estate market. With that, scan the QR code that's going to pop up somewhere or click the link in the description below. Americans are getting worse and worse at money management and financial knowledge. So according to a recent survey, check this out. Americans answered only 47% of the questions correctly on this financial money literacy survey. Only 47% of the questions correctly. That's an F. Well, I remember when I went to school, 50% or lower, or 50% of the questions answered incorrectly was an F. It's a failure. And I think that's quite alarming. But the crazy part is the study goes on to say even worse. It's getting worse and worse and worse, specifically amongst Gen Z, which we'll get into later in the video. But it tracked this financial knowledge across Americans for 10 years. And believe it or not, there has never been a score higher than 52%. Never been a score higher than 52% for over 10 years. Now, when I hear that, I feel like something is way off. Something is way, way off. And to see with the amount of knowledge and the amount of resources out there, to see this number declining or not getting any better is truly concerning. It is directly impacting people's ability to save up for a home, budget, jump into the housing market. Even if homes were affordable, this begs the question, would the everyday American have the discipline to budget, save, and go out and get the correct financial counsel and be able to discern how to buy a home in this market, no matter which market they are shopping in? So that second part really got me, that this study tracked and administered this test for over 10 years and tracked the results amongst Americans. And there has never been a time where folks or the score has been 52% on average or higher. The average score 52% or higher ever. So that is something to truly be concerned about. And I also share this information with you, not to make you feel bad or attacked, but to emphasize the point of how important it is to have some level of basic money knowledge, to talk about money, to seek information. It's not a taboo. We live in America. We live in a capitalistic society where money is the currency that is value. It is important. It is not everything, and it is not the meaning of existence in life. Absolutely not. But it is important. It's important to take care of your family. It's important to take care of your responsibilities. It's important to provide. And it is the currency that makes our economy function. And to turn your head or bury your head in the sand regarding getting money knowledge, basic financial information or literacy is doing harm to not only the everyday American in our economy, but I would suggest to your family, to your financial future. So we're going to get into some other things in this video as well. But again, on this test, on this survey, to never have an average higher than 52% for basic financial literacy. We're not talking like accounting exams and economic degrees and CPA licenses. Basic financial literacy is highly concerning. So I encourage you to take into consideration some of the things I share, such that you can go out there and seek this information to put yourself in a position that literally is about puts you 50% um, better, more ahead than the average American. The report goes on to say that 1 in 4 Americans has extremely low financial knowledge. Right? What does this mean? In the survey, in the report, on average, these individuals only got 7 of 28 questions correct. 7 of 28, which is extremely alarming. 25%, right, scored relatively well on this test. Back in 2017, that number was about 20%. So it's gone up a little bit in terms of financial knowledge since 2017. But when I look at this number, it doesn't necessarily say that even though it's getting better, 20 to 25% means there's an increase in the overall numbers. But it means that the financial knowledge on average across Americans is not getting significantly better. Imagine that. 1 in 4 Americans, 1 in 4, has poor or very low basic financial knowledge on a test that examines basic financial literacy. 28 questions. These individuals only got 7 correct. Adults living in America. And I share that with you such that basic things like interest rates, savings, budgets, basic information about stocks, um, different types of loans to purchase a home, how to balance a checkbook, things like APR, interest rates, index funds, basic information about stocks and bonds. I'm not saying to be super knowledgeable or be a financial advisor, but these are some of the questions and some of the things that were on this test to test basic financial knowledge. And to hear that on average 1 in 4 everyday Americans are basically financially illiterate, don't have basic money knowledge, whether it's because of ignorance, fear to talk about, or just simply um, they just don't know, is extremely concerning and directly impacts things like getting a loan, starting a business, being able to buy a home, uh, understanding car loans, and being able to vet basic financial documents as you move throughout your everyday life. Most folks need basic things like buying a car, buying a home, getting a loan, starting a business, writing a check. I mean, most folks won't write checks nowadays, but everything is digital. But being able to look at your bank statement, understand where your money is going, being able to budget, save for basic everyday necessities, such that your income exceeds your your expenses. These are things that from what I've heard speaking to people, most folks bury their head in the sand. They don't even know what their financial picture is looking like. And it is detrimental to not only your long-term wealth accumulation, but it is truly reflected in these numbers here that basic financial knowledge across the everyday American is truly, truly concerning. The worst of it all is Generation Z. They are the generation that has scored the poorest in terms of financial literacy. Listen to this. The average scores, Gen Z, 38% of questions answered correctly. Millennials, 46%. Gen X, 49%. And baby boomers, 54%. 37% of Gen Z landed in the lowest financial literacy category, according to this report. And these are the folks that are entering adulthood as we speak. And they are the most underprepared in terms of money knowledge, which, as I think about the generation that grew up with the most knowledge, I'm sorry, not the most knowledge, the most technology available to them, I would imagine has quite a bit more financial knowledge and money knowledge. But according to this survey, they are scoring the worst. And this is concerning because these are the future leaders of industry, of business, the next business owners. And to not have any basic money knowledge really puts them in um, a tough, a tough situation, because not only are they entering adulthood, they're also entering one of the most expensive markets to date, where interest rates are at an all-time high, home prices on average are at an all-time high. Uh, what it costs to live is at an all-time high. And this is the time to be the most financially knowledgeable. And again, I want to emphasize, this is not advanced money knowledge. This is basic money knowledge. And the generation that is struggling the most is Gen Z. They're dealing with things like higher rents, home prices that are all-time high, like I mentioned, student loans, rising insurance costs, inflation, expensive car payments. They're entering one of the most expensive economic environments, yet with the least financial knowledge. The report goes on to say the one specific topic that they struggle with the most is insurance. Now, I'll be honest, this took me a minute to wrap my head around as well, and I'm a millennial. We didn't do so hot on this report either. But this is the category that they scored the poorest on, um, in this report, on this test, understanding what basic coverage that they need for their car, for their home, just basic insurance coverage. So these are things that are important. And I found it interesting that out of all the things that they scored the poorest on is insurance. That didn't concern me or alarm me as much, as well as the overall score across the exam or across the test. But it is something that I find quite interesting. Out of all the categories and groups of questions, knowledge about insurance, basic insurance coverage, they scored the least. In addition, financial literacy wasn't just associated, correlated to better financial outcomes, according to this report. So listen to what I'm about to share, that I would imagine when you're hearing this, you would imagine that just this financial knowledge may yield just more money, more money. And here's some other impacts that low financial literacy also yielded, right? People with low financial literacy were also 4 times more likely to struggle paying monthly bills, 4 times more likely to have less than 1 month of emergency fund saved up in case something went left or a rainy day came along. 3 times more likely, 3 times more likely to be financially fragile. Now, I'm not sure what that meant, but it was in the report. And as I thought about it, here's what I think. Oftentimes, talking about money is taboo. And when people speak about money with people who are more affluent or who have means, when money comes up, it's a very casual conversation. It's very matter of fact, it's very normal, everyday conversation. But for some folks who struggle, either who are or struggle financially, or may not have as much financial knowledge or exposure, it's often a very contentious topic, uncomfortable, abrasive. And when I heard this specific fact referenced in this report, that three that people with low financial literacy are 3 times more likely to be more financially fragile, it shared with me that the more knowledge you have, the more comfortable you are with talking about money, discussing money, having conversations about money, understanding money. When money conversations come up, budget, savings, investing, these things not only don't offend you, don't get you so angry or upset. They actually do the opposite. It's a very casual conversation. It's like talking about the weather, sports, things of this nature, which I found very interesting. So something to keep in mind, something to keep in mind. In addition, they're more than twice as likely to feel trapped by debt. And also, they're over 3 times more likely to spend 10 or more hours every week worrying about money. Some people believe financial success is only about income, but the studies suggest these things matter as well. I would imagine this: two people can earn income, the same income. Think about it like this: two people can have the same exact salary. Let's just say they earn $100,000 a year, $50,000 a year. But their financial knowledge or financial literacy can directly impact the things I just mentioned: their perspective on money, their savings, their their comfort in discussing money, how much they hold on to, how much debt they get into. Earning the same income, earning the same income. Financial literacy doesn't necessarily speak directly to financial income or the amount of money you have, but it's your relationship with money, how comfortable you are discussing money. And this report goes on to discuss and elaborate on the difference between those who scored higher on this test, who had a higher financial literacy, and how it impacted some of these things that were a little less tangible and not directly correlated to simply making more money. So last but not least, I found this last point quite interesting as well. It's kind of a new addition to the report. Again, this report has been surveying folks and testing folks for several years, but it's regarding AI. I know it's the hot topic, but AI is a part of our everyday lives now. But very few people are using AI to gain financial knowledge. They're using it for everything else. It's either they're using it for everything else that is less important, or they're not using it at all to educate themselves on financial literacy, asking AI to educate them and be their financial coach, educate them on a budget, educate them on savings, educate them on stocks, bonds, affordability, interest rates, different things of this nature. And the survey goes on to say that only 19% of Americans have ever asked AI a personal finance question. Only 4% are using it regularly to help manage their money, and another 9% use it only on occasion, right? So the first two, 19% of Americans have ever asked it a personal finance question, and only 4% use it regularly to help manage their money. AI is such a powerful tool, if nothing more than to provide knowledge. Simply asking it questions, it begs the question, like, what, for those who are using AI, what are you using it for? And it sounds like we're using it for everything else, but something that could potentially impact our lives in a very positive and significant way over the long term. So I found that quite interesting. Um, Nobody's really using it to create a budget, understand investing, compare mortgages, learn about retirement, build a debt payoff plan. AI is super powerful. And I know many folks are intimidated by it, but this shows me, and it's something to consider, that most folks who are listening to this video are familiar with AI, whether you use it or not. If you are using it, what are you using it for, if not this? And for those who aren't using it, it is a fantastic tool to supplement kind of the reasons you may be thinking as to why you don't have access to this information. So, something to think about. Something to think about. In addition, one of the categories that stuck out that the report surfaced as one of the most concerning topics wasn't investing, wasn't taxes, wasn't how to save up for a home, but it was understanding financial risk. 36%, only 36% of folks answered this question correctly, these questions correctly. Understanding financial risk, where to allocate their money, what to invest in, uh, what debt to pay off first, which loans should they go after or use depending on their circumstance. Understanding financial risk is huge because there's risk in all things in terms of money. Anytime you're spending money on something outside of a basic transaction to buy something as a consumer, I mean, there's even risk there, like buying a t-shirt or a pair of shoes or something where it's a little bit more black and white. Um, there's opportunity cost there, right? You're spending money here, it removes the opportunity to spend it elsewhere. But understanding financial risk, I found that interesting. It's essentially the confidence and the discernment to understand where to spend your money. So, something to keep in mind. The article doesn't go on to say how to solve this problem, but again, understanding the problem is often a big part of the battle of the problem. If you find yourself getting anxious about you have money but you're unsure about where to place it, educate yourself, write down your goals, understand what your prerogative is, what you need to, just where you are in life, which would help you to get a better understanding of where to allocate funds, right? Speak to a professional, take classes, watch YouTube videos, find yourself, uh, I would say pick up a book, something to help you alleviate that stress or reduce that risk, because the risk is always going to be there. There's always going to be a certain level of risk, and your tolerance to it is going to be one big factor, but also your comfort in having the conversation and asking the questions is going to be another factor, and being confident enough to know that you have the information you need to make the best decision for you. So speak to a professional, right? Get the information you need to help you make the best decision for you. But again, understanding that financial risk tolerance and financial risk is a big pitfall, and that most folks answer these questions correctly shares with me that there's a lot of anxiety around making these decisions. Risk tolerance is huge. Risk tolerance is huge because no one wants to lose money. No one wants to make poor financial decisions, right? And understanding where you should spend your next dollar is a huge financial decision, and it's worth spending some time understanding how to alleviate some of that perceived risk and or make risks that are um, worth it to you. So I hope some of that helped, and it was some food for thought. The report, I'll link the report down below so you can take a look at it yourself. But it wasn't about test results. It was understanding why so many Americans, the everyday American, was so was struggling financially, why financial literacy and money knowledge was so low. And I hope that this information encourages you, because this is something that can be changed. It's not something that you're stuck with or that the knowledge isn't available to you, especially in 2026. This was a 2026 survey. Financial knowledge and money knowledge can be learned. There's so many tools out there that can help you get basic information that could put you several steps ahead of obviously the average person. Simply understanding basic savings, basic budget, basic investing, um, where to get the information, what questions to ask, and just spending a little bit of time educating yourself could help truly put you and your family in a position that is many steps ahead of the average person, but much step closer to whatever your goals are. So again, I'll link that report below so you can take a look at it yourself. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you all in the next one. Take care.